All right. So, everyone loves a good bad boy.
Mm-hmm.
And today we're going to be talking about Nick from Culpa.
Yes,
We got a ton of really good analysis from you guys.
absolutely.
And honestly, even I thought I had him figured out.
Oh, yeah.
The sources that you shared,
Yeah.
um,
Lots to unpack.
yeah, there's like a lot more going on
Right.
beneath the surface
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
than I think any of us initially realized.
We often see these characters as simple archetypes,
Yeah.
but Nick's complexity
Yeah.
really comes from an interesting place, his family dynamics.
Okay, so we know that he's from this like crazy rich family,
Mm-hmm.
but the sources kind of paint a picture that's
Right.
way more dysfunctional than
Yeah.
just your typical
Sure.
rich kid problems.
Yeah.
What stuck out to you in terms of how this shapes him?
It's not just about the wealth, it's about the lack of emotional connection.
Yeah.
Um, there's one scene where Nick's stepfather is trying to have like a heart-to-heart, and Nick deliberately picks a fight with his half-brother
Oh, wow.
right in front of him.
Oh my
It's
God.
almost like he's subconsciously sabotaging any chance
Right.
of a healthy relationship.
It's like he's allergic
Yes.
to like genuine moments.
Yes, exactly.
Which, given what the sources say about his parents, like his mother being emotionally distant and his father demanding perfection,
Mm-hmm.
that actually makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. Think about it in terms of attachment theory.
Okay.
Um, this psychological framework
Yeah.
suggesting that our early bonds with caregivers
Right.
shape how we relate to others later on.
Right.
Nick's upbringing
Yeah.
seems to have created an avoidant attachment style,
Okay.
where he subconsciously pushes people away to protect himself from potential hurt.
Oh, so even though he's surrounded by family, he's actually emotionally isolated.
Exactly.
Wow.
That adds a whole new layer to those scenes where he's pushing everyone away,
Yeah.
even when they're trying to get close to him.
Right. Yeah. Even when people are reaching out, he's like, no.
It's not just him being a jerk for the sake of it.
Right.
His behavior stems from this deeply ingrained fear of intimacy
Okay.
that's rooted in his childhood experiences.
So it's not just a choice he's making.
No, it's deeper than that.
Yeah, deeper. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But there's also this element of rebellion, right? Like
Yes.
the sources mention him constantly getting into trouble,
Uh-huh.
taking crazy risks. Is that just like typical bad boy stuff?
Sure.
Or is there something deeper there?
It's definitely tied to his need for control
Okay.
in an environment where he feels powerless.
Interesting.
You know, his parents, especially his father,
Mm-hmm.
exert immense control over his life.
Yeah.
So by engaging in risky behavior,
Okay.
he's seizing back a sense of agency,
Yeah.
even if it's destructive.
Oh, almost like he's saying,
Yeah.
you can control my future,
Right.
but you can't control this moment.
Exactly.
Which, when you consider how often he acts out specifically when his father's around, really highlights that power dynamic.
Right. And that's where the bad boy persona comes in.
Okay.
It's not just a facade.
Yeah.
It's a defense mechanism.
Okay.
He's projecting this image of being fearless and untouchable
Yeah.
to mask the vulnerability and insecurity he feels underneath.
So the leather jacket,
Yeah.
the brooding stare,
Mm-hmm.
the reckless behavior.
Yes.
It's all a carefully constructed armor to keep people from seeing the real Nick, the one who's actually hurting inside.
Exactly. And it's been so effective
Yeah.
that even he might not fully recognize how much he's hurting.
Wow.
That's what makes his story so tragic,
Right.
but also so fascinating to unpack.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, I'm already rethinking everything I thought I knew about it. But before we jump into how all this plays out with Noah,
Yeah,
I want to go back to this idea of his family dynamics for a second.
sure.
The sources also mention a lot of tension with his stepfather and half-brother.
Right. That's a crucial layer to understanding him. The stepfather represents his father's betrayal.
Oh,
The reminder that even in this seemingly perfect world,
Right.
things can fall apart.
Yeah.
And the half-brother,
Yeah.
he's a constant symbol of that broken family unit.
So it's not just that Nick's parents are emotionally unavailable.
Right.
There's this added sense of competition and
That's-
resentment
Absolutely.
within the family structure itself.
Exactly. And that feeds directly into his avoidant attachment style.
Okay.
He's seen firsthand how relationships can be fractured.
Right.
So he subconsciously avoids forming genuine connections to
Mm-hmm.
protect himself from experiencing that pain again.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, but speaking of connections,
Yes.
the one person who seems to throw a wrench into Nick's carefully crafted world
Right.
is Noah.
Absolutely.
And that is where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
But before we jump into their dynamic,
Okay.
I think we need to take a quick pause.
Sure.
We've covered a lot of ground here, and I want to make sure you're still with us.
Okay.
So tell me what's resonating with you so far about Nick's backstory.
Well, for me, it's the realization that his bad boy behavior
Mm-hmm.
isn't just a surface-level character trait.
Right.
It's a symptom of these deep-seated emotional wounds
Okay.
that stem from his family dynamics and his avoidant attachment style.
Totally. And the fact that he might not even be aware of how much he's hurting
Right.
makes you wonder how long he can keep up that tough guy act, right?
Exactly.
All right, so let's take that question into part 2, where we'll dive into the fascinating dynamic
Okay.
between Nick and Noah. You do not want to miss this.
For sure. Picking up where we left off, I think the real turning point in understanding Nick is his relationship with Noah.
Okay.
Remember, Noah isn't intimidated by Nick's bad boy persona.
Yeah.
He sees right through it.
It's like Noah's completely immune
Yes.
to the charms that usually work on everyone else.
Exactly.
The sources point out how intrigued Nick is by that.
Yeah.
It's like almost obsessed, right?
Absolutely. There's this one scene where they're at a party
Okay.
and Nick tries his usual flirtatious tactics,
Mm-hmm.
but Noah just shuts him down hard.
Oh, wow.
Most people would be offended,
Yeah.
but Nick is fascinated.
Oh.
He's
Like,
never encountered anyone who can resist him before.
So instead of backing off, Nick doubles down.
Yeah.
What is that about?
Right.
Is it just a bruised ego?
It's more than that. Remember how we talked about Nick's avoidant attachment style?
Yeah.
Well, Noah's independence triggers something in him.
Okay.
It's almost like he's subconsciously seeking out the validation
Right.
he never got from his parents. But this time, it's disguised as a romantic pursuit.
Oh, so by winning over the one person who isn't easily swayed,
Right.
he's proving something to himself.
Exactly.
It's like conquering the unconquerable validates him.
Exactly. And that's why their relationship becomes so central to Nick's character arc.
Yeah.
It's not just about romantic attraction.
Right.
It's about Nick confronting his deepest insecurities and fears
Yeah.
through his interactions with Noah.
And Noah's not making it easy for him, right?
No.
The sources describe Noah as someone who values authenticity and emotional depth.
Absolutely.
He's not interested in surface-level charm or playing games.
Right. He demands honesty and vulnerability,
Okay.
which are the two things Nick has spent his entire life avoiding.
Wow.
It's this clash of personalities,
Right.
this push and pull,
Yeah.
that creates such a compelling dynamic.
So on one hand, you have Nick, who's used to getting what he wants through charm and manipulation.
Right.
And on the other, you have Noah, who's completely immune to those tactics.
Totally.
What happens when an unstoppable force
Yeah.
meets an immovable object?
Something's got to give.
Yeah.
And in this case, it's Nick who starts to crack.
Oh, wow.
He's forced to confront his own emotional walls,
Mm-hmm.
the defenses he's built up to protect himself from getting hurt.
That's got to be terrifying for him.
Right.
To suddenly have someone see through the carefully constructed persona he spent years perfecting.
It's a huge risk, but also a potential catalyst for growth.
Okay.
Remember, Nick's bad boy facade is ultimately a prison
Right.
that keeps him isolated and emotionally stunted.
Yeah.
Noah's presence challenges him to break free from that prison
Okay.
and embrace the possibility of something more genuine, more fulfilling.
It's like Noah's holding up a mirror,
Yes.
forcing Nick to see himself for who he truly is. The
Exactly.
good, the bad, and the vulnerable.
Uh-huh.
And that's where the real transformation begins.
Right.
But we also have to consider the broader context here, right?
Yes.
The sources mention zillennial angst,
Mm-hmm.
and it seems like Nick's struggles are connected to larger societal trends.
Absolutely. The pressure to succeed, the fear of failure,
Yeah.
the constant comparison on social media. These are all anxieties that plague young adults today.
Right.
And Nick, despite his privileged upbringing,
Yeah.
is not immune to those pressures.
So even though he's from this wealthy family, he's still experiencing the same kind of existential dread,
Absolutely.
and uncertainty that so many young people are dealing with.
Exactly. And that's what makes his story so relatable.
Yeah.
He might have a fancy car and a trust fund,
Right.
but underneath it all,
Yeah.
he's grappling with the same questions of identity, purpose, and belonging
Right.
that we all face.
That's a really powerful point.
Yeah.
It's like the sources are saying you can have all the money in the world, but you can't buy your way out of the anxieties and uncertainties of being a young person
For sure.
in today's world.
Precisely. And that's where the idea of emotional numbness comes in.
Okay.
The sources suggest that Nick's reckless behavior and emotional detachment
Yeah.
are partly a way to cope with the overwhelming pressure he feels
Okay.
to live up to his family's expectations
Right.
and succeed in a world that feels increasingly chaotic and uncertain.
It's like he's using those bad boy behaviors to numb himself to the pain of these anxieties.
Yes.
To avoid confronting the deeper questions about who he is
Right.
and what he wants out of life.
Exactly. And that's where Noah's influence becomes so significant.
Okay.
He represents a challenge to that numbness,
Yeah.
a call to awaken to something more real,
Right.
more meaningful.
Yeah.
He forces Nick to feel things,
Okay.
to confront his emotions,
Right.
even if it's uncomfortable.
Okay. So we've got this fascinating intersection of individual psychology,
Right.
societal pressures,
Yes.
and the transformative power of connection.
Absolutely.
It's like Nick's story is a microcosm of the challenges and possibilities facing young people today.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so compelling.
Yeah.
It's not just a love story.
Right.
It's a story about confronting our fears, embracing our vulnerabilities,
Good.
and finding the courage to be our authentic selves,
Yeah.
even when it's hard.
Right.
And that's a message that resonates with people of all ages and backgrounds.
Totally. But before we get too philosophical, there's one more piece of the puzzle we need to address.
Right.
What does all of this mean for us?
Yes.
How does this bad boy deep dive apply to our real lives?
Great question.
That's what we'll explore in part 3, so stick with us. Okay, so we spent the last 2 parts like really digging into the psychology of Nick from Culpa Mia. And let me tell you, my mind is blown.
Right.
But here's the big question.
Okay.
What can we take away from all this? Like, how does this bad boy deep dive apply to our real lives?
That's a great question. And it goes beyond just understanding fictional characters.
Right.
The key takeaway, I think, is the danger of making assumptions.
Okay.
You know, we see someone like Nick, the tough exterior,
Yeah.
the risky behavior,
Right.
and we think we've got him figured out.
Totally. It's so easy to just like write people off based on first impressions.
Right.
But what Nick's story shows us is that there's often a whole lot more going on beneath the surface.
Exactly. Those bad boy traits, those defense mechanisms. They're often a shield,
Okay.
a way to protect a deeply vulnerable heart.
Right.
And that goes for everyone, not just the stereotypical bad boy.
So what you're saying is even I might be misjudging people
Yeah.
without realizing it. Yikes. That's a sobering thought.
It's not about beating ourselves up.
Okay.
It's about opening our minds to the possibility that we might not have the full picture.
Right.
Remember how we discussed Nick's avoidant attachment style?
Yeah.
That's not something you could just see on someone.
Right. His fear of intimacy,
Yeah.
the way he pushes people away, that all stems back to his childhood experiences.
Exactly.
Stuff we'd never know just by looking at him.
Precisely. And this brings up a crucial point about empathy.
Okay.
Instead of jumping to conclusions,
Yeah.
what if we approached others with a sense of curiosity?
Okay.
Asking ourselves, what might this person have gone through
Right.
that shaped them into who they are today?
Okay, that's a huge mindset shift.
Yeah,
It's like instead of judging the behavior, we try to understand the why behind it.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where Noah comes in.
Okay.
He doesn't buy into Nick's act.
Right.
He sees the pain, the vulnerability,
Mm-hmm.
and he meets it with compassion and understanding.
Okay.
He challenges Nick to be better,
Yeah.
not by judging him,
Right.
but by offering a different way of relating.
That's really powerful. It makes me wonder how many of us have a Noah in our lives.
Right.
Someone who sees past our defenses, who challenges us to grow,
Mm-hmm.
who offers that unconditional acceptance.
And even more importantly, how can we be a Noah for someone else?
Oh, wow.
Think about the people in your life who might be struggling,
Okay.
who are putting up walls, who are maybe even pushing you away.
Wow. Okay. That just took this deep dive to a whole new level.
Right.
It's not just about analyzing a character. It's
Mm.
about recognizing those same dynamics in our own lives and relationships.
Exactly. And the beautiful thing is we all have the capacity for that kind of transformative connection.
Yeah.
We can choose to meet people where they are, to offer empathy instead of judgment,
Mhm.
and to create a space where growth and healing can happen.
So while we might not all be dealing with the same level of drama as
Right.
Nick from Culpa Mia,
Yeah.
his story offers some pretty profound lessons for us all.
Absolutely. And it reminds us that even bad boys have hearts.
Yeah.
That connection can heal even the deepest wounds.
Hmm.
And that ultimately we all have the power to be a force for positive change in each other's lives.
Wow, that's a pretty amazing takeaway
Oh,
from
yeah.
a deep dive into a fictional bad boy. I think we all need to sit with that for a bit.
Yeah, after.
And with that thought-provoking note,
Absolutely.
I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
Great.
Thanks for joining us on this journey
Yes.
of self-discovery.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, sometimes the toughest exteriors hide the most vulnerable hearts.
For sure.
Until next time, keep diving deep.